The splash that changed everything. Night on Lunar Base 7 was quiet. Too quiet. Earth was just a small blue ball in the sky. The stars didn't blink. Nothing moved. John Carter, a retired astronaut, was swimming alone in the base's indoor pool. It was his way to relax, to feel something close to Earth again. He floated on his back, eyes closed, the silence broken only by the soft hum of machines. Then splash. Something hit the water, hard, not near him. On the far end, John stood up fast. He wasn't alone anymore. He looked across the pool. At first, he saw nothing. Then bubbles, movement. Something or someone was drowning. Without thinking, he dove under. The water was cold. His eyes burned a little, but he didn't stop. He swam fast, arms cutting through the silence. And then, he saw it. It wasn't human. It was small. Maybe the size of a child. Skin glowing faint blue, arms weakly moving, eyes wide with fear. It didn't look dangerous. It looked helpless. John grabbed the tiny figure and kicked up toward the surface. They burst through the water. He pulled the small creature to the edge and laid it down. It coughed hard, making a strange chirping sound. Then it breathed. John stared. His heart was racing. What the hell was this? The creature blinked at him. Its eyes were too large for its head. Soft silver hair fell over its face. It looked like a child from another world. Because it was. John wrapped it in a towel and carried it to the maintenance room. The cameras didn't cover that area. He laid it gently on the workbench. The creature was shivering, its glow flickering. "You're okay now," John whispered. "You're safe." The alien looked at him, not with fear, with trust. John had seen things before. During missions, he'd heard rumors, classified stuff, but nothing like this. This was real, and it was looking at him like it needed him. An hour passed. John made sure the creature was warm and breathing fine. It didn't speak, but it seemed to understand him. Then it pointed at the moon, or rather, below them, at the floor. No, deeper than that, towards something hidden under the lunar surface. "What's down there?" John asked. The creature stayed silent, but its eyes, they told him everything. Something was there, something important. Suddenly, the lights flickered. John looked up. Power wasn't supposed to go out here. Not on the moon. Another flicker. Then a sharp alarm. Only once. Just a beep. Then silence again. Someone else knew. John turned back, but the alien was already hiding under the bench, curled up small, like it had done this before. She's hiding from them, he realized. From whoever or whatever is looking for her. At the security center, a man in a black uniform checked a monitor. He zoomed in on the pool's camera feed. A splash, then static. A figure in the water, too fast to identify. Something entered, he said into his comms. "Check for biosigns. We may not be alone." Back in the maintenance room, John made a decision. He couldn't report this. They'd take her, run tests, lock her away. Maybe worse, he wasn't a soldier anymore. He didn't have orders, but he had something stronger. A gut feeling. This little alien didn't fall into the pool by accident. She was running, and if she was running from something out here on the moon, then things were far more dangerous than anyone knew. He looked at her. She looked back. Their eyes locked. "I don't know who you are," John said quietly, "but I think you just changed everything." Outside the base, under miles of rock, something ancient began to stir. Machines woke up. Lights blinked. A soft, pulsing hum filled the underground. The moon had kept its secrets for too long. Now, one of those secrets had surfaced, and a human had just saved it. "She speaks through silence." The lights flickered again. This time, longer. John froze. He stared up at the ceiling of the maintenance room as the soft hum of the power grid hiccuped. 1 second, 2, then steady again. The alien, still wrapped in a towel, watched him. Her big, glowing eyes didn't blink. She didn't seem afraid of the power outage. She seemed used to it. John kneeled beside her. "Are they looking for you?" She didn't answer, but slowly, she raised a trembling hand. Her 3 long fingers pointed upward, then downward. Then she tapped her chest. John frowned. "You fell from above." But you came for something below? She tilted her head, almost like a nod. He felt a cold weight settle in his gut. She wasn't just some lost traveler. She had a mission. John moved quickly. He grabbed an old field tablet from the shelf. It was dusty, the screen cracked, but it still worked. He brought up a lunar map. "Show me," he said. The alien stepped off the bench. Her steps were small and careful, like she wasn't used to gravity, or maybe just afraid of being heard. She came up beside him and placed her hand gently on the screen. Her fingers glowed faintly, and then without touching anything the map zoomed in. John's eyes widened. What the hell? The map began to shift. It showed areas he didn't recognize. Hidden layers beneath the base. Deep tunnels, some marked decades ago, long since closed. One location was blinking red, a spot that hadn't been touched in years. "Mining site Delta 4, John whispered. "That place was shut down after a collapse." "Nothing's down there." The alien looked up at him. The silence in the room was louder than any sound. Meanwhile, in the security wing, Dr. Elias Voss entered the room with slow, confident steps. He wore a black coat, clean and perfect. Too perfect. The guard stood when he passed. His ID was marked clearance, level 7. He didn't smile. Didn't blink much either. "Show me the footage," he said. A young officer nervously tapped the console. A recording came up. The pool camera. A splash, a blur, then static. Voss leaned closer. "Run thermal scan." "Right now." The officer hesitated. "Sir, thermal was down for routine." Voss gave him a look that felt colder than space. "I said." "Now." Back in the maintenance room, John stared at the map again. That site Delta 4 was over. A mile beneath the base. How do we even get there? The alien tilted her head again. Then she touched the tablet's corner. A new line appeared. A path. One John had never seen before. "How do you know this?" he whispered. And then something happened. She reached out. Slowly, carefully. Her finger touched the back of his hand. And then his mind exploded with images. Not pain, not sound, just flashes. A glowing city, floating above clouds. Tiny creatures like her, many of them gathered around a bright, crystal core. A voice, but not a voice. A feeling, a word in his head. Home. Then, fire, collapse, screams without sound. A ship, one ship, escaping. Her inside it, crying, running alone. John gasped and pulled back. He almost fell over. The alien looked at him, worried. He stared at her like she was a ghost. "You showed me that." She didn't move, just watched him. "Telepathy," he muttered. "Or memory sharing?" He rubbed his face. His heart was still racing. "You're not just some explorer," he whispered. "You're the last of your kind." She lowered her head. A soft blue tear rolled down her cheek and vanished into light before it hit the ground. Back in security, Dr. Voss watched the thermal scan reload. A red shape flickered on the map. "Got you," he said coldly. He tapped his thumbs. "Target located. Move to corridor 19C. Use caution." "She's not alone." John packed fast. Emergency rations, water, power cell. He found an old mining suit and an oxygen pack. Then he turned to her. "We can't stay here. They'll find you." She looked scared, but she nodded. John pulled up. The maintenance hatch under the floor. Cold air rushed out. "We'll follow that path you showed me. Down to Delta 4. She stepped toward the hole. But before he could move, a voice came from the hallway. "John Carter. This is security. Open the door." He froze. The alien grabbed his hand. "Go," he whispered. Now, they climbed down into darkness. The door above them hissed open just as John closed the hatch behind them. The tunnel was narrow. The air was dry. Dust covered everything. John's flashlight cut through the dark. The alien followed close behind, eyes glowing like two tiny moons. "How long have you been on this moon?" he asked. No answer. "Did you crash?" Still nothing, but her hand pointed forward, toward something, like she knew where she was going. After nearly 30 minutes of crawling, climbing, and sliding down old service shafts, they reached a massive metal door. It was covered in dust, rusty, sealed for decades. The alien placed her hand on it. Her glow spread out, like veins of light crawling across the surface. The door shook. Then slowly, it opened. John stepped inside. His jaw dropped. The room was huge, dark, but in the center was a glowing device, floating, humming softly. The alien walked straight to it. Her light pulsed in rhythm with the device. She came here for this, John whispered. This is why she came. But then, footsteps, echoes, from the tunnel. Behind them, John turned. Voices, flashlights, soldiers. They'd been followed. The hidden map in her skin. The heavy metal door groaned as it shut behind them. John pressed his back against it, breathing hard. Footsteps echoed from the tunnel beyond. Voices. They were coming, fast. The alien, still silent, stood in front of the floating device. Its soft glow responded to her presence, flickering like it recognized her. John whispered, "Is this what you were looking for?" She didn't answer with words. Instead, her hand reached toward the orb-like machine. It pulsed. A deep humming began to grow in the room, like the sound of a faraway storm moving closer. John turned to look. All around the room, strange patterns lit up on the walls. Lines, symbols, circles moving within circles. It was like standing inside the heart of a living machine, and somehow, it felt alive. Back in the tunnel, Dr. Voss held up his hand. "Stop." The soldiers froze. He stepped forward, scanning the sealed door. His eyes glowed faintly green for a moment. "This door hasn't opened in 47 years, he muttered. "Until tonight." He turned to his team. Plasma cutters. Now, inside, John watched as the tiny alien pressed her palm to the center of the glowing device. The machine responded instantly. A beam of light scanned her body from head to toe. Then something unexpected happened. Her arm just below the shoulder began to glow brighter. A strange grid appeared under her skin. Symbols, geometry, almost like a circuit board or a map. John stepped closer, amazed. "What is that?" She looked at him. Her expression was soft, but serious. She raised her glowing arm and pointed to the largest symbol on it. It pulsed. John looked closer. "That's the same shape from the map you showed me earlier. A circle within a triangle, surrounding a star." Then the device lit up again, this time projecting a full 3D hologram into the room. John stepped back in shock. It showed the moon, but not as humans knew it. This map showed layers beneath the surface, tunnels, structures, machines, a whole hidden network, and at the center, deep under the moon's crust, was a massive chamber, bigger than anything the human base had ever discovered. John stared at it. "Wait a second. That looks like..." He stopped, because suddenly, the room shook. Boom! A blast echoed from the hallway. The door behind them began to glow red. "Cutters. They're breaching," John said. "We need to move." The alien turned and touched the glowing orb again. The hologram shifted. Now, it showed something terrifying. Ship. Not hers. Not friendly. Something else. It looked like a jagged spear floating in space. Dark. Covered in weapons. It was moving toward the moon. John whispered, "It's coming here?" She nodded. Then she pointed to herself, and to the map in her skin. John understood. "You're the key," he said. "That machine, you woke it up. You're trying to stop it." She nodded again, eyes glowing brighter. Then, for the first time, she opened her mouth. A whisper, not in words, but a sound like music, made of light. John didn't understand it, not with his ears, but somehow, he knew exactly what she said. "We built this to stop them. Only I can finish it, but I need you." The door burst open. Flashlights flooded the room. Shouts. John grabbed her hand. "Run!" They sprinted across the chamber toward the far side. The map had shown another exit. Blaster fire hit the wall beside them. Sparks flew. John turned and fired a small stun pistol he had grabbed earlier. It hit a guard in the leg. He dropped. "Cover your ears!" John yelled. He threw a small sonic bomb behind them. The explosion was silent at first, but then hit like a giant thunderclap. It shook the walls. The soldiers fell back, screaming, holding their ears. John and the alien reached the exit tunnel and jumped in. Darkness again. Cold metal underfoot. They ran, for what felt like forever. The tunnel was tight, but dry. The deeper they went, the more it slopped downward. John's suit warned him they were over a mile beneath the lunar surface. Now, eventually, they came to a stop. They needed rest. They sat in a side chamber, an old maintenance room with broken panels and dusty air vents. John finally spoke. I need to know more. Why are they coming? What do they want? She raised her arm again. The map reappeared in glowing lines. She pointed to the central chamber. Then, with her other hand, she drew a shape in the air, a circle, then 2 lines. Crossing it out, John understood. They want to destroy it. She nodded. He frowned. Why? What's down there? She placed her hand on his chest. John blinked, and another vision filled his mind. This one was different. He saw Earth. Beautiful, blue, alive. Then, darkness, a shadow spreading across space. Planets dying, stars fading, and then he saw it, a creature, not a ship, a living thing, black eyes, long limbs, feeding on light itself. It was real, and it was coming, not for her, for all of them. John gasped and pulled away. This isn't just about your people, he said. It's about mine too. She looked at him, her eyes full of sadness, but also hope. Back in the command center, Dr. Voss stood alone, reviewing the scan of the alien's glowing skin. A hidden map, technology far beyond human understanding. He smiled. Activate Project Eclipse, he said into his com. If she opens the core, we take it. If she resists, eliminate them both. Back in the tunnels, John checked his gear. They had one last path to follow, one last chance to stop whatever was coming. The alien looked at him. No words, just silence. But it was clear. This was the beginning of something much bigger. John stood. Let's finish what you started. They walked deeper into the dark, toward the core, toward whatever waited below. Enemy in the shadows. The tunnel narrowed. John ducked low, guiding the alien with one hand and aiming his flashlight with the other. Dust floated in the stale air. Each step deeper into the lunar catacombs felt like moving through the belly of a sleeping beast. They had no map now, just instinct, and the faint glow from the alien's skin that gently lit the walls around them. I hope you know where you're going, John whispered, not expecting an answer. She didn't reply, but her hand stayed steady on his. She was calm, almost too calm. John wasn't. Something felt wrong. Meanwhile, far above them, Dr. Elias Voss walked into the private command chamber of Lunar Base 7. His coat was spotless, his face emotionless. The screen before him flickered to life with thermal imaging. 2 red dots were moving steadily downward through a non-registered tunnel. Voss stared at them. So predictable, he muttered. He turned to his assistant, a stiff-looking AI operator, in a gray uniform. Deploy the drones. Non-lethal protocol at first. The assistant hesitated. Sir, do we want the creature alive, or just the map? Voss turned slowly. You always take the heart before the treasure. Send the team. And if Carter resists, he smiled. Make it hurt. Back in the tunnel, John stopped. His flashlight had just hit something strange on the wall. A metallic panel, not like the others. Old, fused shut, covered in black burn marks. What happened here? He murmured. He reached out and touched it, and a strange hum vibrated up his arm. It was faint, mechanical, alive. Was this a door? The alien stepped forward. She stared at it. Slowly, she raised her palm and placed it on the metal. Her glow pulsed once. The panel hissed. John stepped back as it split open with a low growl of gears. Behind it, a room, circular, empty, except for the walls, covered in alien writing, and in the center, something that chilled John to the core. Photos. Old Earth photos. NASA badges. Satellite images. Even pictures of John himself. He stepped closer. What is this? Then he saw it. A video screen flickered on, recording. Voss's face appeared. Younger. Sharper. Eyes colder than they were now. If this message is playing, that means our little friend has finally reached the core. John froze. "You've been part of this longer than I thought," he whispered. The recording continued. "We found the alien signal years ago, covered it up, built the base around it, let the world believe it was just mining and science." Voss leaned closer in the video. "But it's not just technology down there. It's a weapon, a gate, a threat, and we can't let it be activated." The screen glitched, then shut off. John stood silent. The alien looked up at him, confused. You're not just running from some hunters," John said slowly. "You're running from us." She nodded. A soft light flickered in her eyes like sorrow or apology. Suddenly buzzing, the sound of spinning blades. John turned. Drones. 3 of them shot into the tunnel. Small, fast, armed. John grabbed the alien and ducked behind the console. Stun shots fired, crackling as they exploded on the wall. "Go back through the tunnel," he shouted. They ran, barely dodging the lasers that sizzled past them. John fired back with his stun pistol, hitting one drone. It sparked and spiraled into the wall. 2 left. They raced through a collapsing side tunnel. Lights flickered, then died completely. Just the glow from the alien's skin guided them now. They ducked into a shaft and climbed a service ladder. They reached a large cavern, natural, untouched. But the walls weren't rock. They were metal. A massive underground dome, bigger than any hangar John had ever seen. A strange humming filled the space, vibrating in his bones. In the center, half buried in dust and moon rock, was a massive machine. John's breath caught. It was shaped like a seed, a black starseed, pulsing softly. The alien's light pulsed. In sync, she stepped forward, mesmerized. John grabbed her arm. "Wait, what is this?" But she was already walking toward it. Behind them, another sound. Boots. Soldiers. Voss stepped through the tunnel, hands behind his back. Calm. Smiling. "Well done, Carter." John turned, stunned. "How are you? How long have you been following us?" "Since before you even knew you were part of the story," Voss said coolly. He looked at the alien. "Hello, little thief." She stepped back, fear in her glowing eyes. John stepped between them. "She's not a threat." "No," Voss said. "She's the key. And a key only has one purpose." He raised a small device, pressed a button. The starseed machine woke up. The humming grew louder. Lights flared, and the alien fell to her knees, crying out, her light flickering violently. "She's linked to it," John shouted. "You're hurting her." "She's activating it," Voss snapped. "Exactly what we need. Now step aside." John raised a stun pistol. Voss sighed. "You still don't get it, do you?" He walked forward slowly. "Do you know what's coming, John? That thing in space? It's not just her enemy. It's ours. But if we control this machine, we control how the war starts." He smiled again. "Every great empire begins with one stolen spark." John stared him down. "You're not saving Earth. You're enslaving it." "Better a cage than a grave," Voss replied. Behind him, the soldiers readied their weapons. John looked at the alien. She was glowing brighter now, painfully bright. Then, she looked at John. One last message, a single thought, pressed into his mind. Break the link. John didn't hesitate. He turned and shot the starseed's control panel. The machine screamed, if a machine could scream. Lights burst. Energy lashed out like lightning. Voss yelled, diving for cover. The alien collapsed. But the connection had snapped. The machine shut down. Silence. Smoke. And then, movement. A hidden wall at the far end of the dome slowly opened. A staircase. John helped the alien up. She was weak, but alive. "Come on," he whispered. "We're not done yet." They descended into the unknown. As behind them, Voss screamed in frustration, but as they vanished into the depths below, another machine came online. Far above the moon, in space, a shadow stirred. Its eyes opened, and it began to move. Tiny hands, big secrets. The staircase was ancient, worn smooth by time, and not built for human feet. John held tightly to the small alien, her skin now flickering like a dying star. She was breathing, but slow, weak. Every few steps, she looked up at him with eyes full of pain, and something worse, guilt. "Don't you quit on me now," John muttered. You didn't drag me this deep into a moon just to die in a hallway." She blinked slowly, then looked forward again, down the stairs, always down. They reached a chamber, round, tall. The ceiling stretched into darkness. The walls were covered in glowing vines or wires, or veins. John couldn't tell anymore where biology ended and machines began, but the center, that was clear, a crate alien in design, surrounded by floating symbols, and inside it, a tiny, glowing crystal, beating like a heart. The alien let go of John's hand and slowly walked forward. Her skin shimmered like candlelight in wind. Her steps wobbled, but she reached the cradle and placed both hands gently on the crystal. Instantly, the chamber lit up. Symbols spun. A warm wind blew from nowhere. The hum of the moon itself returned. John squinted as a holographic display burst to life in the air. Dozens of small blue figures, aliens, just like her, and one by one, they began to vanish, not walk away, not run, disintegrate. John's throat tightened. The alien turned to him and slowly raised her hand to her forehead and tapped it once. He felt a gentle pulse in his mind, a memory. She had not come alone. She was part of a crew, a guardian team from her planet, chosen to come to the moon to activate the final defense. They knew the threat was coming. They knew it would awaken the dark starships, the harvesters. Only a few of her kind were left. They weren't soldiers. They were engineers, seed bearers, but something went wrong. The harvester ships moved earlier than expected. Her team was caught in orbit. Their escape pod was hit. She was the only one who made it to the surface, alone, and with the weight of an entire species on her tiny shoulders. The memory faded. John opened his eyes to find her staring at him. He stepped forward, quiet. "You were never the threat," he whispered. "You were the solution." She blinked once, then twice, and looked up at the chamber around them. And that's when John noticed something on the far wall, another cradle. But this one was empty. He walked toward it. There were markings above its symbols, almost like coordinates. One of them glowed faintly. It pulsed in the same rhythm as the tiny alien's crystal heart. John touched the edge of the cradle. The wall responded. A voice played, ancient, warped by time, but translated somehow through her presence. Cradle 02 incomplete. Pairing failed. Awaiting secondary core. John turned to her. There was supposed to be another. She nodded. Weakly. Another guardian. Another seed bearer. She had never been the full key. She was only half. Far above them, in Lunar Base 7, Dr. Voss stood in the smoking remains of the starseed room. Sparks flew. Panels popped. He was bleeding from a cut across his forehead, but smiling. "I underestimated her," he said to no one in particular. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out a tiny, rectangular crystal, blue, pulsing. He stared at it with hunger in his eyes. "She's only one half," he whispered, "but I have the other." Back below, the alien, trembling now, suddenly dropped to her knees. Her glow sputtered like a dying candle. John caught her. "No, no, don't fade out on me." He felt her heartbeat through his hands. It was irregular, weak. She looked up at him and placed a hand on her chest, then moved it to his. A single word filled his mind like thunder. "Bond." John gasped. "You want to give it to me?" She nodded once. The seed, her energy, her memory, her life. He shook his head. "No, Aunt. You don't survive if you..." But she had already placed her fingers on his forehead. It felt like being pulled through light. Memories flooded in, not his. Running through alien cities. Flying in ships that sang when you touched them. Laughing with creatures who didn't use mouths to speak. And then, the fear. The darkness swallowing stars. The harvesters reaching out with long, black arms. Eating suns. Drinking planets dry. Then the mission. The escape. The crash. Loneliness. And hope. Him. John opened his eyes. The room was still. His skin tingled. Something inside him now pulsed faintly like a heartbeat that wasn't his. He looked down. She was still, peaceful, but her glow was gone. John didn't cry. He didn't have time, because the ground shook. In the center of the chamber, The previously empty cradle now lit up, responding to him. Symbols lit the floor. A beam of light shot upward, passing through every level of the moon, and in space. The harvester opened its eyes. It began moving faster, toward the moon, toward Earth. But so did something else. The signal activated a forgotten satellite hidden in deep space, and it sent a message, not to Earth. To them, the ones who made the seed, the guardians. The message? The key has bonded. The weapon is waking. John stood in the light of the cradle, arms shaking, energy pulsing in his chest. He could feel her in there. Not fully gone, but not fully present. She had passed on her will, and now, he was the one the weapon listened to. He looked up at the sky, visible through a crack in the ceiling. A single thought crossed his mind. They're coming. But now, so are we. The core must wake. The moon trembled. Not like a small tremor, not like a nearby explosion. This was a live. It was the pulse of a beast awakening. John stood in the center of the alien cradle, light spinning around him, symbols floating mid-air like weightless runes. His heart wasn't racing, it was sinking with something far older, far deeper. The seed had bonded with him. The guardian was gone, but her mission wasn't, and now, it was his. The light vanished. Everything went still. John opened his eyes. He felt different. He looked at his hand. Tiny veins of glowing blue light pulsed just beneath his skin. Alien, but also human, somewhere in between. A voice echoed in his mind, not hers exactly, but her memory, like an echo. The core must wake. He took a deep breath and turned toward the far end of the chamber. A massive gate stood closed, sealed by time and silence, until now. With each step he took toward it, the symbols on the walls lit up, responding to him. The moon itself was listening. Above, in Lunar Base 7, Dr. Voss stood in front of the main screen as red warning lights blinked to life. "Sir," a technician stammered, "we've lost contact with every underground sensor. Power spikes are coming from beneath Sector 19 through 37. Define power spikes," Voss said. The tech swallowed. "Like a sun trying to be born. Under our feet." Voss smiled grimly. "Then it's working." John reached the gate. There was no lock, no keypad, no handle, just a single place to rest a palm. He placed his hand against it, and the wall exploded with light. The gate opened with a rumble like a collapsing mountain. What lay beyond? A room the size of a city. But this wasn't a chamber. It was a cockpit. Massive walls curved like the inside of a dome. Lines of glowing blue circuits stretched outward like roots. At the center, floating above a platform of light, was something impossible, a sphere, the size of a shuttle, spinning, and inside it, a star, tiny, contained, controlled, burning. John stumbled forward, awestruck. The voice in his head returned. "This is the heart. It powers the core. The core powers the weapon." He stared at the miniature sun. "You stored a star inside the moon. We stored hope. Far above, in Earth's orbit, the harvester ship finally arrived. It didn't scream. It didn't announce itself. It just appeared. A black mass the size of a continent, shaped like a claw, covered in pulsing red lights and jagged metal plates. Its surface shimmered with heat, or maybe hunger. It turned toward the moon and began to open, like a flower made of blades. Back in the moon's core, John reached the central console. It wasn't built for fingers, but it recognized him. The seed inside him pulsed once, and the entire chamber responded. Massive mechanisms began to shift. Walls cracked open, light flooded in, and above them, the moon itself began to change. Panels lifted from the surface, hidden ports opened like petals. Massive alien constructs rose from beneath the dust, ancient weapons long buried. Now awakening, John watched the system boot up on the alien console. Core status: power charging, target locked, guardian link, secondary seed, incompletion frowned. Secondary seed? You mean her? She's gone. She is not gone. A new light appeared beside him. Projection. Her, not fully alive, but not dead either. A memory turned into code. her essence preserved by the seed. She smiled at him, flickering, faint. But there, John didn't have time to cry, because the chamber shook hard. A beam of energy had hit the moon's surface. The harvester had fired its first warning shot. It wasn't here to negotiate. It was here to eat. Voss stood in the control center, watching the feed. "Deploy Earth's interceptors," he said. "Send everything." The general on the screen frowned. "Even our nukes?" Voss nodded once. "If the moon's core fails, we won't have time to regret it." Down below, the alien projection turned to John. "You cannot fire the core from here." John blinked. "What?" "The weapon requires a pilot. The system is linked to your nervous system now, but the controls are on the surface." John exhaled. "Of course. Because. Why not?" He ran to the exit. 30 minutes later, he reached the upper chamber. Dust flew around him as the base shook from another impact. The surface doors were already open. The core system had unlocked the hidden ports. A massive alien platform had risen from beneath the base, like a launchpad. At its center was a strange craft. It looked like it had been grown rather than built. Smooth, blue-veined, alive. The weapon. John climbed inside. The seat wrapped around him like a living glove. Symbols danced in his vision. "All right," he muttered. "Let's light up the night." The weapon lifted. The moment it reached open space, the harvester turned. It saw him and screamed. The first volley hit John's shield like thunder, but the core fought back. A blast of energy so bright it turned night into day. John flew straight into the storm. The harvester loomed ahead, its mouth of spinning blades opening wide. But John had the core behind him, and the memory of a small alien girl who believed in him. The final approach was chaos. Drones swarmed him. He spun, dived, blasted them with beams of hard light. Every time he hit, he saw the alien console respond with pulses of joy, like she was cheering from inside the system. He was not alone. And then the final chamber. A glowing red eye at the heart of the harvester. The core's console lit up. One last message appeared. "Charge complete. Target locked. Final action required." Trust. John reached for the trigger. His hand shook, then steadied. "I trust you." He fired. The beam was silent. White. Clean. It pierced the harvester's eye like a sword through glass. For a moment, nothing. Then the harvester collapsed in on itself. Pulled inward. Folding. Cracking. Imploding with a scream that shook radio waves for miles. And then silence. John floated in orbit. The weapon was empty now. Dark. He looked up at Earth safe. And then down at the moon forever changed. And in his ear, one last message. Soft as breath. "You were always part of us. You just didn't know it yet." A light across the galaxy. The stars were quiet. For the first time in days, maybe longer, space was still. No harvester ships. No sirens. No blaring alarms. Just silence. John Carter floated above the moon in the alien ship that had nearly killed him, surrounded by faint embers of a dying war. The weapon had fired. The harvester had fallen. But inside the cockpit, he was barely conscious. His body was numb. His skin still glowed with the traces of the seed, the last of the Guardian's gift. He wasn't sure if he was still human anymore, but he was still alive. Barely. "Sir, do you copy? This is Lunar Base 7. John, if you're hearing this, respond." The comms crackled in his ear. He opened his eyes. Earth hung ahead, so close now it filled the window. A perfect blue marble. He tapped the side console weakly. "Still breathing," he muttered. Mostly. Back at the base, the command center erupted with cheers. But not everyone was cheering. Dr. Elias Voss stood silently in the shadows of the observation deck, arms crossed, jaw clenched. His face was unreadable, but his thoughts were screaming. He had failed. The Guardian bonded with John. The weapon answered John. He had played his cards carefully for decades, and still lost. But not everything was over. Because in his hand, he still held the secondary crystal. The dead one, or so they thought. He placed it into a secure case, locked it, and whispered, "Every light casts a shadow." Back in space, the alien ship guided itself gently back to the moon's surface. It docked into a cradle as smooth as silk, as if it had returned home. John stumbled out, barely able to walk. The base crew rushed to greet him. Cheers, clapping, cameras. He didn't hear any of it. His eyes drifted up to the stars, somewhere up there. The memory of her still floated in the systems. The tiny alien who changed everything. That night, John sat alone at the edge of the crater, wrapped in a thermal blanket, sipping water that still tasted like metal. The stars were brighter now. Not because of any science. Because he was different. He could feel things. A soft hum under the surface of the moon. A pulse, as if something ancient and alive was watching, listening, protecting. Suddenly, something blinked in the sky. Not a star, a beacon, blue, then another, and another, and another. Across the void, lights began to answer, all in the same rhythm. The signal had been heard. Within 24 hours, the sky changed again. A rip appeared in space over Earth's orbit, a tear of silver, and through it came ships. Not like the Harvester. No spikes, no growling metal. These ships were elegant, bright, made of crystal and curved light, as if they were grown in sun and music. Dozens, then hundreds, each carried a single symbol on their hulls. The same glowing triangle star sigil John had seen on the Guardian's skin. The world held its breath. Earth's satellites went blind. All military forces stood alert. John stood at the lunar platform as the first ship gently touched down. The ramp opened, and from the light emerged a tall being, not like the tiny Guardian. This one was taller than John, dressed in robes that shimmered like morning mist. No mouth, no eyes, but still, he felt her presence again. They spoke with no words, just a shared silence. Then one voice echoed in John's head. You held the seed. You carried the core. You gave her peace. And you earned a place among us. John blinked. A place? The being nodded. A new symbol appeared in the air before him. Spinning, glowing. It was Earth. Tiny, fragile, surrounded by stars. We are the watchers of the veil, the protectors of light, the guardians of the forgotten seeds. You are now one of us. Back on Earth, chaos broke loose. The news was flooded. Protests, celebrations, conspiracies. Some people called John a hero. Some called him a traitor. Others called him first contact. The real one. The one that mattered. 3 days later, a new council met in Geneva. For the first time, humans sat at the table with beings from other worlds. Languages clashed. Cultures collided. But peace was offered. Not with weapons. With seeds, knowledge, energy, healing, a chance to grow beyond war and walls and wires. Humanity stood at the edge of a new beginning. But not everyone was ready to leap. John wasn't there. He had disappeared from the base the night after the ships arrived. Some say he returned to Earth. Some say he went with the Watchers. Others say the seed changed him into something that wasn't bound by place or time anymore. But one thing was certain: he had become a myth. The man who saved a galaxy by saving a single drowning alien. Far away, on a distant planet, one of the new Watcher ships touched down in a forest of glowing trees. Children, small, glowing like the Guardian, ran out to greet it. And inside, they heard a story. He dove into the water for a creature no one else could see. He did not ask who she was. He just jumped. And in that moment, everything changed. He did not have wings. He did not have powers. He only had one thing, a choice. And he made the right one. That is why they say, humanity. Oh, yes, they're the scary ones. The ones who care too much to ever be stopped.